I'm currently only keeping this one because my son wants me to, but stick around till the end because it's not that simple. Hey, I'm Alex Ratcliffe from Board Game Co., and today I'm reviewing Tenpenny Parks from Thunderworks Games. And Tenpenny Parks is a polyomino game that will play across 5 rounds as you slowly build out your parks, as you slowly take your workers, placing them in various locations to buy various rides and other things, we'll get to them, grabbing the respective tiles and then placing them into your parks to get a variety of bonuses and hopefully have the best park by the end of 5 rounds. That's the general high-level overview. The specific turn-by-turn you can follow very easily by going through this handy-dandy play rate that has the scoring, it has the round sequence, and every single round the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take income. You're going to take $3 plus $1 for every other thing that gives you dollars from these various concession stands that you can build in your park very nicely, giving you extra dollars and other things. From the various rides over here, these rides or attractions will give you income every single round. Think of them as the, I don't know, the tourist spot where you can buy the pictures and the dinosaur bones and all the various things. Those will give you income as well. So $3 plus change. That's the income step. From there you go to the action step, which is turn by turn. You're going to take your workers, you're going to place them down in various locations. You can place them onto the center carousel where you will buy one of the rides over here, modified by the amount on the carousel. So you'll get discounts or increased costs depending on how this carousel is rotated around the board, and take that respective card and the respective polyomino piece that the card represents, putting both the card and the polyomino piece into your park. More specifically, the polyomino piece goes into your park and the card goes off to the side of your park where you can see the various statistics it has on the reverse side, statistics that will include the point value at the end of the game, as well as how much you'll have to pay for advertising and what you'll get as a return for advertising doing the advertising step. Additional actions you have is you can go to the banker to get $2, a simple quick clean action. You can go to the realtor, spend $3 and add an extension to your park, which is very helpful for getting more space to build more attractions. You can go to the contractor, which is where you can gather one of these tiles, these concession stands, putting them into your park. The concession stands will give you both income as well as little symbols that will respond to or correlate to these 3 tracks over here. And then lastly, we have the arborist, where you can pay $0 and clear 2 trees off your park, freeing up a little bit more space for rides. You're going to take your 3 workers, placing them on those spots, only 1 person per carousel spot, and then until, rinse and repeat until all players have done so, at which point you move to the bonuses step. During the course of the game, as you bought concessions, as you bought rides, you'll see these indicators over here, which will show you symbols as well. And as you cover up respective symbols on your board, you will have the opportunity to advance tokens on these tracks over here as follows. Let's just make up some stuff over there. And then you'll be on these tracks. Let's move this one over here for funsies. So you're going to move out these tracks as you go through there, and now you deal with the bonuses. In the bonuses step, you are going to get additional bonuses depending on who's furthest ahead, and being on top is considered to be furthest ahead. And if you're playing more than 2 players, there's an additional second place bonus. In a 2-player game, no second place bonus. The bonuses for the tracks are either getting a point, that's going to be on each track over there as a possibility. Alternatively, on the top track, you can move backwards 1 to go ahead and get an extra worker to place out next round. On the middle track, you can move backwards 1 in order to take the first player marker, which will give you, well, first player, as well as allowing you to rotate the carousel to delegate the specific bonuses, increased or decreased costs you'll see that round. And then the bottom track, you can go back 1 in order to take an extra $3. Those are the 3 bonus tracks, and second place is just a point, but only in a 3 or 4 player game. When you're done with the bonus step, you're going to move to the advertising step, which is where you're going to look at the back of every single ride you have in play, and you're going to have the opportunity to spend the amount of money shown to get the amount of points shown. That's something that I don't recommend doing the first round or 2 of the game. At least I would say I don't recommend doing the first round or 2 of the game. Although strategies might differ, so maybe do. But as you go through throughout the course of the 5 rounds, specifically rounds 3, 4, and 5, you're going to want to start considering how much money you're investing into your park to continue to build it, versus how much you're starting to invest in order to get people to your park, in order to get as many points as possible. You'll have the opportunity to pay that cost for each ride you have, at which point you go ahead to the cleanup step. In the cleanup step, you're going to refresh the concessions, putting out 2 new concessions, 2 per player. You're going to return your workers to your board. You're going to rotate the carousel. That's a mandatory rotation. You have to do it. Whoever has the shovel gets to go ahead and do so. And then you're going to advance the month marker, and that is it. Rinse and repeat for 5 rounds, at which point you get to the end of the game, you're going to score for a few things. You will score for your completed goals. In the beginning of the game, you are given some goal cards. These goal cards will give you specific criteria to go for. End the game with 4 or fewer trees removed from your property board. That will give you some points. And the game with at least 3 undersea attractions over here, that'll give you points. You'll have a variety of points that give you different criteria and give you 3 points for each one. You're going to move up your score track. You're going to take score markers as much as those goals you've completed. You're going to look at your attraction values, the specific point value that's listed on each attraction to get points for that. You're going to look at the emotion tracks, the thrill, you know, the awe and the joy tracks, and any one of them that you've gone past the 8th spot. So if you're on these spots over, basically the slightly shaded area here, you get 5 points for each of those. And then lastly, if you have built at least 6 or 7 attractions, you'll get 5 bonus points. And if you built 8 or more attractions, you'll get 10 points. And no, concessions are not attractions. That's Tenpenny Parks. Across 5 rounds, place your workers, take bonuses, build your various rides. One thing we didn't cover, which is fairly impactful, is when you place things on your board, you can never touch another thing. You have to leave pathways for your guests to walk. This concession cannot go next to a ride. It can go off to the side, touching corner to corner. This one as well. We can put this like that. That's totally legal. And we can basically do that there. We can grab one of these over here and put this like so, because I've cleared that spot for the tree. And you can go ahead and grab another concession and put it down over here. All these options as you go, you want to make sure you're never touching your rides from side to side. They cannot be orthogonally adjacent. They could be diagonally adjacent. And that is Tenpenny Parks. So, ease of play. Ease of play. This game is incredibly easy to dive into, incredibly easy to teach the core gameplay. Like, I'd have to go through my teach again, but I'm 90% sure I got basically everything. This symbol over here is any of the tracks over here. That symbol's going to be $4. Basically everything was covered here, I think. I'm sure I missed something out. This is not a rules teach, this is a review, but it's a really easy game to dive into. It's a really easy game to play, to teach, to go through. Super easy to table as well. Table space, this is set up for a 2-player game. More players will just be a few more of these tiles over here, not a lot, and the playtime comes in consistently at the 45 to 60 minute mark. You can get under 45 minutes if you're playing 2 players, so call it 35 to 60 minute mark to play this game. So really accessible on all counts. Player count is a 1 to 4 player game. I've played this at 2, 3, and 4 players. I have not dived into the solo mode, so I can't comment on that. As far as player count, as far as preferences, I liked it at all. The game is going to add a little bit of time for 3 and 4 players compared to 2. The interaction is not particularly high, so 2 was totally fine. 3 and 4 adds a little bit of interaction, but a little bit of extra time without adding that much extra interaction. But the extra socialness of having more people at the table, I enjoyed this game at all player counts. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, the art and production is off the chart. First of all, the art of Vincent Dutrait, the production value of these pieces, like these are not some like cheap cardboard tokens. These are some premium tokens over here. The solid little carousel that's a little irritating to assemble, but once you get past that initial assembly, everything here has just quality production. It's not like over-the-top miniatures. It's just a very, very solidly produced game across the board, from the way it looks, from the way it feels, component quality, left, right, and center. The bonus tracks. The bonus tracks add a fun little puzzle to the game of things you're being mindful of. You might have that instinctive aspect of going for points or going for money, but the bonus tracks are a big thing to not forget. Worth potentially up to 15 points throughout the course of the game, and you might be able to get all 15 points if you actually go ahead on the tracks and don't ever recede on the tracks if you balance what you're doing. But you might want those bonuses. Maybe you want that extra worker placement every round. Maybe you want control over where the carousel goes, or maybe you just need more money to fuel more of your advertising, because as much as it could be fun to get to those 8 points over here, those 5 points over here when you cross the 8th track, if you're getting 3 money a turn instead, well, that can be turned into more than 5 points, so there's always a trade-off. What do you do? How do you do it? The decisions based around those tracks give you a lot to do over here. And speaking of which, the pathways towards success in this game are variable. Whether you go for a ton of rides and the 10 extra bonus points, whether you go for a ton of concessions to move up the bonus tracks, whether you keep advertising the same few rides every round, instead of investing your park up, you just keep heavily advertising that one roller coaster you have, but if you do so every single round, that's a lot of opportunities to get extra points that your other players are focusing building a bigger park, but not necessarily a more profitable park. There's a lot of ways you can try to figure out how to move forward in this game. Locking in your objectives can be a chunk of extra points if you get all those, but that might involve a trade-off to actually get all those. So the game gives you different pathways towards success, and it gives you a lot of game in 45 minutes. And the placement puzzle is very satisfying, and it starts off feeling restrictive when you first start diving into this game. But the more you play it, the more satisfying that placement puzzle is. The combination of not being able to touch your edge-to-edge pieces, plus avoiding trees, gives you an interesting puzzle as you try to figure out, well, okay then, if I'm not going to go edge-to-edge, because I can't, then why don't I try to build out my park in a way that doesn't take the trees off? Because if I can do so, if I can do that over there, then I can be more efficient, not wasting my precious actions going to the arborist, and instead focusing on which rides will work in the puzzle I'm given, while being as efficient as possible with the space, because actions are your currency in this game. With 15 actions across the whole game, 15 worker placements, a few more if you have that extra worker, but with basically 15 actions across the course of the game, every single one matters. The amount of rides you can get matters. The amounts of trees you can remove, the board extensions you can get, the extra money, every single thing in this game is tight. And so it gives you a lot of room to try to be as efficient as possible with your board. What starts off as a restriction is instead an opportunity to see how much you can get done. And by the way, I'm going to move this up here because that's going to give me extra bonuses. You see that? That's a much better spot over there. But there's a lot of fun in terms of trying to figure out the combination of the rides, your park, the trees, and figuring out the most efficient puzzle therein. As far as things I don't like, it's going to be what I just talked about, which is the limited rounds and the 15 workers. This is a fairly tight economical game in terms of what you're doing over here. In terms of the concessions you have, the money you're going to have, the income you're going to have. Once you hit that third round, you're already starting to see fewer and fewer returns from those rides that you're investing in. At a certain point, you have to decide, okay, maybe it's just time to focus on advertising. Maybe going to the banker is an extra $2 that I can turn into an extra 2 points doing the advertising step. Maybe there's one more building I need to get for my objective, but will it really help? Although maybe it's also going to be the 8th attraction in my park, giving me an extra 5 points from where I'm at currently, which can be huge. The limited rounds, the 15 actions in the entire game, make this a very tight puzzle, which feels a little counter to a polyomino engine. We've had heavy polyomino games, don't get me wrong, but this is like really forcing you to cram and to be as efficient as possible across those 5 rounds and 15 total actions. As far as I can see others not liking, some of the objectives seem imbalanced in terms of how difficult they are, especially at higher player counts. There are some objectives that require you to get multiple of the same type of ride. Getting 3 greens can be significantly harder, especially if you're playing a 4-player game, because the chances of those greens being taken every single round are going to happen. Getting 3 greens when you only have 5 possible green attractions that'll be purchased the entire game. The nature of the fact that you can only have one person going on each carousel spot means you're only going to have 5 of each color sold, and so locking in 3 in a 2-player game, that's very reasonable. Locking in a 3 in a 5-player game, through no chance that you have to get in the way to do anything, just through the sheer luck of the draw, the turn order, through no agency or control you have, you might not be able to get those. Or getting 5 attractions, that can be a lot of work. Compared to getting 5 different concessions, that's usually a lot easier. And so I can see people being frustrated with the difficulty of the objectives, or the variable difficulty, I should say, of the objectives. And then lastly, that tree and corner-to-corner placement. While I appreciate that puzzle, it is a restriction at first, and it feels like you want to just build more in your park. It's like, I have the space, it's right there, why can't I go ahead and just put this over here? It's really the best move for me. Who cares that it's touching? It feels a drop irritating. For me, that's something that I got over because it allowed me to see the opportunities to be efficient, to not use the arborist, because if I planned perfectly, I didn't need to remove those trees anyways. But it can feel a bit restricting, it can feel a bit punishing. If you're looking for something a little bit more open in what it's doing as a polyomino puzzle, then Tenpenny Parks is open-ish, but there are more open polyomino puzzles out there. As far as final thoughts on Tenpenny Parks, this is a 4 to 5 for me, but with caveats. I really like what Tenpenny Parks is doing. The art, the production, all those things are really solid. The game time, the puzzle it gives me, it's checking all the boxes in a solid way, but it's also not doing anything new for me. At least not new in polyominoes. Well, it kind of bridges a bit of a hybrid of being accessible to some degree, but also giving you enough tightness that there is strategy and decision and choices you'll have to make to be as efficient as possible. I've played this game both with my kids and with my game group, and it's a very different experience each time. Playing with my kids is just more kind of playing it a little bit more casually, just grabbing things and just having fun as they build up their park, as I build up mine, as I sometimes let them just place their ride next to each other because who really cares, or rearrange your roller coaster. It's not like that's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. I'll let it go. But it also has a little bit more tightness in it as you play with adults, in that extra level of strategy of the choice of blocking others. There are times where you will block other players intentionally, specifically structuring, oh, I see you're going for those reds, let me put that +2 over there because honestly, I just want that one anyway, but I'll block you off and you don't have the money to go for it. There's an extra degree of tightness to the game as you advance in the tracks, as you take the rides, as you structure out your park. The main critique I have of it is that it's not really a critique of the game, it's just a critique of the bigger gaming space, is that for me it's not doing anything really new. Comparably speaking, this game does hit the same spot as Baron Park while being a bit tighter, and I find Baron Park to be a slightly more enjoyable experience. Comparably speaking, this is being in a heavier weight class as games like perhaps Foundations of Rome or perhaps Isle of Cats and Planet Unknown, but at the same time, this one doesn't do anything new in what it's doing. It just does what it does really, really well. So it's both a 4 to 5 while also feeling like it's not hitting anything new in my collection, if that makes sense. It's in a weird hybrid spot. I really like it. I'm kind of happy my son wants me to keep it because I don't mind continuing to dive into this. Tenpenny Parks is a solid addition to the polyomino genre. As far as other game recommendations, we have Bärenpark, which is the one I mentioned. Bärenpark has been for a very long time my go-to polyomino game that has always and continuously been the standard to beat in terms of the combination of the puzzle you're going for and sheer accessibility, being both accessible to everyone and rewarding enough for adults. And then a recent addition to my collection is going to be Planet Unknown. Planet Unknown giving you simultaneous play with up to 6 players, which really gives the polyomino feel of what you're doing while still playing your own engine, still doing your own thing, very much like in all these games over here. A drop of interaction on the main board, but a lot more on how you do your own little thing. But with 6 players being able to play simultaneously, it gives you a large degree of accessibility, and the variation you have from the various corporations, again, gives you a lot of reason to continue to dive back in. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, have a good one.